Hello everybody. Before we begin the Weiss Schnee Knights Chronicle character guide, I wanted to let you guys know this is a video, comes from nothing but a place of love. The creator of RWBY, a guy named Mani sadly passed away in 2015. For anyone who knows a little bit about me, before I was a streamer and a YouTuber, I also wrote novels, nothing published, just something I did creatively in my spare time. And Mani was one of my major inspirations. We were inspired by a lot of the same things: Final Fantasy, video games in general, anime, Capcom. And sadly, 2015, he passed away after a procedure on his heart due to an allergic reaction. Right after season 2 of RWBY. And to me, it's never been the same personally. But I wanted to let you guys know the person that Mani was. So when Mani first got started, originally creatively, his very first big breakthrough was Haloid, which is pictured right here. It was basically a mashup of Metroid and Halo. So there's Master Chief right there, and that was his very first animation work that he did. Sometime around in like the 2005, somewhere around there. Really cool stuff, really cool. You know, it was just amazing to see the choreography and the creativity that he had as a person. And then after that, he actually came to fame making Dead Fantasy here. Dead Fantasy is another mashup of the Tecmo universe versus the Final Fantasy universe. And honestly, it's my favorite thing he ever did, as much as I love RWBY. The Final Fantasy characters, if you're into any type of anime, Japanese, anything, definitely an inspiration. The Tecmo characters as well. As you can see here, some of the creativity that Mani had as a person. One of the few people I would actually consider even more creative than me, which, you know, not to toot my own horn, but definitely Mani had me beat in every damn category, as the track record to his success proved. So he did about 5 or 6 of these, and sadly he never completed this series, which was too bad because I always wanted to see how it ended. So, and then right about this time, he got approached at it was either a convention or however it worked out, by Rooster Teeth, which is where he would spend the majority of the rest of his career. He struck a deal with Rooster Teeth to do all the Red versus Blue, which is a Haloid, very popular Halo series rather. And ended up doing a lot of the animation and the choreography for that. You can see some examples of it here. And his deal with the Rooster Teeth head was, I want to make my own series, and he had been working on the RWBY characters. I want my own series, so they struck a deal to where he would do, I believe it was 3 to 4 years of animation for Red versus Blue. And then after that, that's when he finally got to become have his own series, RWBY. So, just a forward, Manium. Never met you, man, but I considered you an inspiration. Considered you a friend. And may you always rest in peace, sir. Now on to the character review.
Weiss Schnee.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Showtimedr. So we're going to get into the Weiss Schnee suggested build here. I'll explain her to you. For you guys that don't have time to look at the screen, I'm going to go over all her stuff. And I'll read it to you, and we're also going to run the dungeon so I could illustrate what's going on. Now, Weiss is my very favorite character in RWBY. Weiss is my Vegeta, Weiss is my Spike, Weiss is every character. All my favorite characters and everything, but unfortunately in Knight's Chronicle, they've made her a little bit weird, and I kind of hope that they change her. But let's get into it here. So, her leadership's actually pretty cool. Ice Queen. Increase attack type allies attack by 60%. If Ruby's in the party, increases all allies multi-strike chance by 20%. Ruby's another collab character. Wind type. So I could actually see this being fairly useful for farm teams if you run a bunch of attackers that have all AoEs. You can just make sure that they're killing stuff really quick. So her regular passive is at the beginning of the turn, she gets a glyph. Glyph is a buff that she achieves, and it can only be consumed. It can never be dispelled or anything like that. So what Glyphs does, or Glyph rather, she inflicts additional damage equal to 80% of damage dealt and has a 70% chance to make the target unable to be revived for a turn. So a little bit like how Verdandi operates. Not quite nearly as good though, not quite nearly as good. So, and then we also have her 60 passive here, Pirouette. So first 2 turns of any combat decrease damage taken by 50%, or start of the wave rather. So pretty good stuff there. 70% chance to freeze. So if you're running one of those freeze meta teams, this is another character to consider here. And then a 50% chance to decrease her skill cooldowns by 1 when attacking if the caster does not have Glyph. Glyph is kind of a tricky thing. We'll get into it here. It'll be more apparent on her 2 and 3. So her 1, for those of you guys that have been gone from Knight's Chronicle for a while, most of the characters get a skill upgrade on every skill at rank 3. So in Weiss's case here, not only does it do more base damage, but she gets Adrenaline. Adrenaline is a buff that increases attack speed. Then also there's usually, not always, another buff on the level 6 version. For Weiss on this one though, it's just increasing her base chance to get Adrenaline up to 50%. And then 160% attack. So her 2 and her 3, pay close attention to these guys. Frostbolt's level 1. This is a 3-turn cooldown. Consumes Glyph. This is the only thing that consumes her Glyph, by the way. To inflict damage equal to 200% of attack to a target if caster has a Glyph. If caster does not have a Glyph, it turns it into a weaker 80% attack AoE. So get that to rank 3. It becomes penetration damage on her super single target. If it's the multi-target, it's still base damage, assuming you've taken her Glyph off already. And then get it to rank 6. Eventually it's a 320 single target if she has Glyph, or a 128 AoE. And that also evades counter attack, so if you're fighting someone like a Cynthia, that's pretty good. I could see that actually being pretty useful in PvP as well, considering if you notice her skill cooldown at rank 1 is 3 turns. Get it to rank 3, it's 2 turns, and get it to rank 6, it's 1 turn. So you can go back and forth constantly. Consume the Glyph, hard-hitting single target. Get someone like a Karen to give her an instant turn again. Do the AoE, and her 2 actually puts back her Glyph. So it goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Her 3, this is a hard-hitting single target as long as she has a Glyph. But if she doesn't have a Glyph, it attacks 3 enemies for a lower percentage. 5-turn cooldown. Get that to rank 3, it goes to 4 enemies for the AoE portion when she doesn't have Glyph. And get it to rank 6, now it's ignoring defense. The single target's ignoring defense. Gets up to 192% on all enemies, which is pretty much how most basic AoEs go. But it goes from 3 enemies to 4 enemies to all enemies. So Weiss is one character that's really going to shine if you're able to get the Farm to Luna, or maybe the dupes possibly while the event's going, to get all her skills up. Has lots of synergy going back and forth with Glyph. So depending on what you're fighting, she is actually adaptable. You need hard single target. She's got her 3. and her 2, and then if you get her 2 cooldown all the way to rank 6, then that's on 1 cooldown. You can instantly come back, put the glyph back on, get your passives back, and do hard single targets again. So as far as which skills to upgrade, I'm going to recommend her 2 first, because you want to get the skill cooldown as low as possible and get all the extra beneficial effects like penetration damage. And then after that, go ahead and go for her 3, max that out, and then the 1, to be perfectly honest, you can get that to rank 3 and probably be okay, but rank 5 if you really want the base damage. So as far as what to build on her, I'm actually seeing her, believe it or not, guys, because I usually didn't do this when I used to play the game. Depends, you know, who you're running her with and how you're doing. She doesn't have any type of crit buff, crit damage, or crit chance, other than her passive tree. So I would actually recommend getting her crit damage, which is a 2 set, or excuse me, crit chance, which is a 2 set. And then, depending on who you're running with, if you can get her crit damage to a respectable, or crit chance to a respectable 40 to 50%, go ahead and do that, and then work on, for a 4 set, you could do crit chance, or you could just do multiple 3 sets, to where you could do, say, counter attack for 1, 2 glyphs, and then do crit chance for the rest of it. But how you build it is up to you guys. Of course, you can go attack or any of the other exotic runes. Also, it's going to depend, like I said, who you're going to run it with. If you have someone like Wendy Marvel that makes it insta-crit, then crit isn't necessarily something you need to gear towards. Maybe you're going to run her with a Frost team, Frost PvP team. But anyway, so we're going to get into it here. We're going to go do the collab dungeon. And I'm going to show you guys how this works so that you're going to be able to see. Out of all the characters right now, she's definitely upgrade dependent on her skills, as are most of the characters, to be perfectly honest. But she doesn't have amazing, crazy synergy that someone like Yang or Blake has. Most people right now, they're saying that Blake or Yang are their favorite characters. So right here, I'll give you guys a flavor of her ulti here. Once again, her ulti, this is rank 1, 300%. She does have her glyph, which is that on the left there. That buff. As you can see, she still has her glyph buff, so only her 2 consumes her glyph buff. And if you actually read it, like I said, it's just passive, so unless there's a way to block passives, like say Cynthia or something like that, it basically can't be removed unless she removes it. Yeah, let me go ahead, turn visual effects off, and we'll get going here. And Netmarble's been knocking it out of the park lately with all the collabs. Alright, so now I'm going to show you guys when you use her 2. Right now it is a single target. It's going to hit 200% as long as she has a glyph. But it's also going to consume the glyph. You see it disappeared there. So all of her moves now have reverted to the AoE versions rather than the hard-hitting single target versions. So it's kind of cool because she is adaptable. So you can bring her on something like a world boss. You could bring her on something that's like an AoE clear pack, or you know, some type of farming dungeon or whatever. Wow, she dispelled Abel's shield. Yeah, oops. So cool part about this, you're gonna see, now that there's an AoE pack and Weiss doesn't have her glyph, if she was rank 1, she could instantly go back and use her, or excuse me, not rank 1, rank 6, or even like rank 3, she could instantly go back and use her too after 1 or 2 skill cooldown. Yeah, unfortunately, Weiss isn't that built up, so... But you'd be ready for this AoE pack right here. Otherwise... And we'll just have Yang do some heavy lifting. Oh, Yang finished it before I could get back to it. But basically, when you use her 2 again after you've used her 2, Glyph will be put back on her. So that's why I recommend upgrading 2 first to get on the lower cooldown. So if you need to go one or the other, you need to go hard-hitting single target, you need to go AoE. That's there for you. So Weiss can actually, there's another Weiss on my friends list. She put out about 800k damage on this boss. So pretty good stuff there. And that's pretty much how Weiss goes, guys. So there's also a costume for her. The costume is just base stats, so it gives her 7% of everything. In fact, let me go pull that up so you guys can see it. So here's her costume. Pretty good stuff there. Like you see, just the base stats. You got the badges, you know, normal costume stuff. And that's pretty much it, guys. So quick review. Upgrade her 2 first and upgrade her 3. Gear her depending on what your team or what you're going to use her for. She's adaptable for AoE or single target. So you want to do a Frost PvP team with her. She's adaptable for that too because she has a passive that is giving her a chance to freeze, and you can run her as well with the Yokai collab leadership, and where all ice heroes have a chance to freeze pretty much no matter what. And she could be gold for you guys. She could be gold for you. She's definitely the most weird build out of all the collab characters right now, but if you put some time and effort into her, she can turn into a monster. So that's going to be it for my suggestion videos, guys. And if you got a Weiss, hey, go ahead, let me know what you think. How are you using her? You see yourself using her in the future? And that will be it for me. So I will catch you guys later on. Peace out.